very happy to welcome Darlene Messier here today. Oh, how nice. Yay for Darlene, who's going to talk about medical alert systems. She's here from Connect America, and she's going to go through what's available, how to pay for it, and give some examples, I think, of successful circumstances that it's been used. All right, thank you. So this is going to be more interactive, I think, than a lecture. So I will grab another microphone. So if you have questions or want to talk, I'll come over to you with the microphone, okay?
Do I have to push the button?
No, you're good.
Hello? I'm not used to using microphones. I talk with my hands, and I'm right-handed, so maybe I should, but I have to hold this with my right hand, so a little mixed up here today. So I'm going to talk about the medical alert devices. Many of you already know about them. Some of you may already have one or know of someone who has had one. So feel free as I go through this to ask me questions, give me a comment on something I talked about, ask a question, whatever you think comes to mind. Don't hold it till the end because we might forget what we wanted to ask or talk about. And so your questions help me remember everything, right? I won't remember everything without your help. I will be general in my conversation about it because I've been working, just to give you a little history, with the medical alert devices since 1992, so 31 years, and they've come a long way. If you think back 31 years, we didn't walk around with cell phones in our hands. When you were talking on the telephone or talking to someone who wasn't in your home, you had a phone that had a cord connected to the base unit of the phone that was plugged into the wall, right? And an antenna if it was a cordless phone, that's right. Oh, and when it was about this big, right? And they weighed 2 pounds, so we got our exercise while we were talking on the phone. So from 30 years ago, things have come a long way, and we have a lot of different options, which is why it's fun to come out and talk to you now, because it's not just a button in a box, and it's not just for emergencies. So I'll kind of go through all of that with you. Why people get them is a variety of reasons. Back then it was only for emergencies. Today it's not just for emergencies. So I have some examples up here, but this is not the only thing that's out there. So I'll encourage you, if you're thinking about getting medical alert devices or your family is thinking about it for you or someone else that they know, to do your shopping around, but think of some of the things that we'll talk about today to ask about, okay? And for everyone in the back, can you hear me back there? You can hear me okay? She's waving, good. Okay, so, and everybody's paying attention. So we'll start with what they look like and how they work, and then kind of go through who uses them and why they use them, okay? And the different things to come, because there's more coming. They're not stopping here with these type of, it's now called like a wearable device. So you can wear these on your neck, on your wrist, on your hip, wherever, tape it, pin it to your bra or your strap or your suspender, wherever you want to put it. So basically the way they work, we have different kinds. Now if you already have one, I might not be showing the kind you have, so just give me a few minutes to get through all of them so I get to that kind that you might have. The first one we start with is the type of phone that I talked about from way back before cell phones, when we all had a hardwired phone. We still have those devices. We call them our landline devices, and this is the example I have. It connects to power, electricity, so it plugs into power just like everything mechanical these days, and it also connects through your telephone line. So I have one that looks like this, and on the part of the plastic closest to my hand is where the speaker is. That's where the voice comes out of. I also have this one, different type. It's just more flat, also connects to the landline and can be used in the same way. The voice comes out right here near where my thumb is. And the way they work is you wear a button. This type of device, we have the button that can be worn. Let me show you one. It's sort of gray and white, and you can wear it on your neck or on your wrist. Whichever place you wear it, it's the same button. It just, we take the cord off and we put it on a wristband. So it would look like I'm wearing my watch. That's where the button would be. For these to work, when you need help, you press the button. When you press the button of any of these devices, when a button is pressed, it calls our 800 number. So it dials out through your phone line, if it's connected to the landline, it dials out our 800 number, and it comes to our call center. It doesn't go to 911. It comes to our call center. We're here, one of the companies I'm with is here in Massachusetts. We also have another answering place in Canada. So you could get someone with a New England accent, or you could get someone from Canada, but they speak English. Don't worry, they won't come over speaking French, to ask you if you need help. The voice comes out of the box. So kind of, it's a little bit different when you're talking to someone who's not in your house and you don't have to pick up the phone. So when the button is pressed, it dials our 800 number, no cost for the call. I get a lot of questions that say, how much is it every time I press the button? No cost for the call. When it comes through, we'll answer and we'll say, Debbie, this is Lifeline, or Debbie, this is Be Safer at Home. Do you need help? If Debbie can answer me and tell me what she needs, we're going to follow her directions. So she might say, I do need help. I'm stuck in this chair. I can't get up. Can you call my daughter? She lives next door. So we would call her daughter to come over and help her up, and then follow through with a telephone call to say, does she need any further help? And, follow direction accordingly. Or we might hear Debbie say, I fell getting out of the chair. I think I hurt my wrist. We would send the ambulance. So that's why I said earlier, it's not just for emergencies anymore. You can push these buttons for anything, okay? So that's the first type of unit we have. Now, as time marches on these 30 past years, some of us have gotten rid of our landline. I'm guessing there's some of you here who have gotten rid of your landline, who just have a cell phone. We have our devices that work without a landline, and this is an example of one. And this one that I showed you before that is a landline can also be cellular. So there's different devices out there. They look a little different. And the way they work is they have cell service, just like your cell phone, built right into them. So when the button is pushed, these connect into the house just with electricity. So when the installer goes into the house, they plug it into power, turn it on, and that's it. It connects through AT&T or Verizon, and that's how the call goes through. One thing to stress to you that a lot of people get confused with is it does not go through your cell phone. So if you have T-Mobile or, Cellular One or any AT&T, but this is Verizon, it doesn't matter. We have cell service built right in. We pay for that, so it doesn't go through your cell phone. So if you got up this morning and ran over your cell phone with your walker wheels or your wheelchair wheels, or you stepped on it or you ran out of minutes, and your cell phone is not working at all, this still will work, okay? That's important to know, because a lot of people think, what if my cell phone isn't with me? When we talk to you, when you press the button with these cellular devices, the voice is going to come out of the box. It's not going to come out of your cell phone. It's still going to come out of here, okay? Now I'm going to stop there and see, does anybody have any questions on that? Did I confuse anybody? You with me? Because you're... So the question is, what if you're far away from the unit? Will they hear you, right? Will you hear us? Will we hear you? It's a very good question. They all have a volume control on them. So when we install them, and I highly recommend you allow our installers to go put them in just because they make sure everything is okay, they always put it on high volume. When we call out and we say, do you need help? If we don't hear you right away, we can amp up the volume on our internal microphone. So if you truly need emergency help, the conversation isn't as important as knowing to press the button. Because if you press the button and we don't hear you, we're going to send help, whatever your profile says. Sometimes you can't hear us. So sometimes, I don't know if anybody's had any emergencies happen in your home, but it's quite scary. You get, your heart starts beating if you fell down the stairs and you're thinking, oh my gosh, am I hurt? I got to get my son over here. Or I hurt my ankle, my hip hurts. It's quite scary. So in the panic of an emergency, sometimes you can't hear what we're saying. If you need help and you press the button, all you have to keep saying is help me, or help, or whatever you want to say, and we're going to get you help. The conversation at that point isn't as important as making sure you mash that button. In everybody's profile, though, in more answer to that question, we have responders that we can list if you want us to. So in everybody, not everybody's the same. So there's not one standard answer for each person, because some people have neighbors and family who live close by. So they'll give those neighbors and family a key, maybe. They'll give us their neighbors and families' telephone numbers to call. So in the profile, it might say, first call goes to my neighbor, Joy, who also happens to be my daughter. So if we can't hear your response when you press the button, we would call Joy and have her go check and see what's going on. Because you may have hit it by accident. We were talking about hitting it by accident. You may have hit it by accident when you went downstairs to do the laundry, so you can't hear us because the speaker's upstairs. So Joy would come over and say, what are you doing down here? Your button went off, and they're wondering if you're okay. And then you can just let us know. So there's a variety of answers, I guess, to that. But the main one is, if you need help in an emergency, you press the button. We will send help. Even if you can't hear us and you pressed it, help will come, okay? Now, if you're pressing it just to get your neighbor or your daughter over because you want to tell them to remember the French bread en route to dinner, you want to make sure we can hear that request. And I say that, but it's true. Someone did press their button one time during a listening post and said, can you call my son and remind him to bring the bread? He always forgets the bread. I said you can push it for any reason, right? So that's where you would want the conversation, is if you needed us specifically to say, can you send my neighbor over? Yes, sir.
How far do you have to be away or close to the box to push the button and it reaches? How far does the button reach?
So the question is, how far does the button work away from the base unit, right? So if I'm wearing the button, this is the little transmitter that makes that send the call. And it's about 300 to 400 feet away from the base unit that it'll send the call. When we install these, the installer will put the base unit in the house, and they'll walk around and do a range test. So if the bathroom is way over there and this is in the kitchen, they'll take the button and go to the bathroom to make sure it works over there. They'll do the same if you have a garage. We'll go in the garage, make sure it works from the garage out to the mailbox. Typically it works, these that I'm talking about right now, the landline and the cellular, typically work in and around the house. So they'll work in your house, upstairs, downstairs, in your garage, out to the mailbox in the driveway, and in the backyard. But these won't work here. Okay, does that answer that question? Again, we want to test them because you want to know how far you can go. You want to know if you're next door visiting George and you push the button, is it going to go off?
So if you're here in the center here and you have to use it, can you get the call?
Well, if you're here and you needed it right now, I would hope she would call 911.
But
She's saying yes, she would.
Darlene, are there devices that you could get? that
There
you're
are.
outside of the house?
There are devices you can get if you're here, and I'm working my way up to that. So the ones I'm talking about now for landline or cellular are for when you're in your home. When these first started out, this is why people got them, is because when they were home by themselves and they needed help, they couldn't get it. That's what started it, and they're still that way. So the basic reason for getting these is because you're not with someone all the time, 100% in your house, in the same room, together, where they could get help. Then we started to say, and the question always came up years and years ago before the newer ones came out, what would happen if I'm in Stop and Shop? And I always said, well, if you're in Stop and Shop, someone will be there to help you, was my standard answer. But reality is, you can be walking from the store to your car, and fall between two cars, and there might not be someone to see you, or it might be a time of day that's not busy and there's just not people around, or you're the last one leaving a building like this going to your car. You know, a variety of things where you're alone outside of your house. We do have mobile devices, and the mobile devices that we have look like this. I didn't untangle it before I came up here. This is our mobile device. So it's a little bit bigger, but it can be used anywhere. And the reason it's this size is because as I showed you these, you have the button and the base unit, right? One of them is the base unit connected with all the communications to make the call. And you have the button to wear. This one is everything built into it. So that's why it's a little bit bigger at this point. We were talking about it earlier. We are working to make it smaller because it is a bit big, but it has the big button on the front, and the speaker is right below the button where I'm pointing right there. This is the whole thing. The difference with these is, obviously this one works anywhere. So if you're here and you push this, because you know she won't call 911 for you, and you push this, you'll get someone to come over this. You'll hear their voice saying, "Do you need help?" And you can tell them what you need. It also has fall detection in it. So if you fell when you were walking out in the parking lot and you weren't able to push it because you bonked yourself on the rear view mirror of on the side view mirror of someone's car, it would detect the fall and still let us know that you fell. Now, the buttons that you wear in your home also have the capability to have fall detection built into them. So if you wanted one with fall detection and you only needed it for when you were home, you could still get that at home. But the mobile one has it built in too. Now you might say, well, why would anybody want the one that they use only at home if you can get the one you can use anywhere? Because some people, when they leave their house now, never leave alone. So they always go out with a daughter because they can't go out of their house by themselves. Then they really don't need the mobile one. It's bigger, right? So if they don't need it, why get something that's bigger? They could wear the smaller one. So that's why we still have the different options of them. Also, this mobile one needs to be charged. The others, the base unit is plugged into power all the time. This one isn't because you're wearing it. So it does have to be charged. It has this little cradle. It's very small. And it just sits in it. It charges. It takes about 25 minutes. So if you have a favorite, I usually say, you know, you don't have to charge it every day. You can charge it every few days. But I always say get in the habit of doing something. Then it's easier to remember it. So if you're someone who watches Jeopardy every night, when you sit down and watch Jeopardy, you sit it on its cradle. When Jeopardy's all over, it's charged, you put it back on. Something like that. So, but this one cannot be worn on the wrist because, for one, it's quite large, and it has fall detection in it. So with fall detection, it detects falls based on motion, on how you're moving around, falling. So if you had it on your wrist and you could normally talk with your hands like I usually do, you know, you might be slamming your hands around, it'll go off all the time. And we have a question. I'm going to start in the back.
You probably already said this and I missed it. What is the range on that mile-wise?
On this mobile one?
Yeah.
Anywhere. You can use it anywhere. So it doesn't have a base unit that it's connected to. So this you can use here today. Tonight, you could go to Hartford, Connecticut and use it there. You can go anywhere, anywhere. It actually has airplane mode to travel with it. So yeah, great question. This one doesn't have a limitation to the range.
While charging, I don't think I need that. Will it still be active?
Yes. So while it's charging, it still is active. So when you're sitting there watching your TV program, if you start to feel uneasy and chest pain or something's going on, you just push the button that's right near you. That's why you keep it near you. Press the button and it'll still work. You'll still hear the call go out. Now, if you forget to charge it if something, you went out to dinner, you came home, Jeopardy's over, you forget, you had such a wonderful time with your family, you go to bed, you're exhausted, you wake up the next day. If you forgot to charge it and the battery starts to run low, it will let you know. It will tell you it's time to charge it. So there's a reminder on it. I'm glad you brought up your question because I would have forgotten that. So, any other question? Yeah. Yes, I do see a time when that will be smaller. And that time has passed already. It's supposed to be out already. We are working on a smaller device and one that can be worn on the wrist, including fall detection. So they are working on that. It's supposed to come out by the end of the year, which is like 4 weeks away from now, 4 or 5 weeks away from now. But, time will tell. It'll probably look similar to this with a big button on it, because the simplicity of it is, some people say, why do I need that? I don't need that. I always have my cell phone with me. And we all always have our cell phone with us, right? Does everybody here have their cell phone with them? Most people do. But where is it right now? In your bag. In your bag. Mine's over there. But I'm saying I always have it, but it's not on my person right now. And when you have a need of help needed, and that device that you think you have with you all the time is what you're relying on to get help all the time, if that device is 2 feet away and you can't get to it, that's too far. So a wearable, something that you can keep on your person all the time, is very, very different than saying I have a cell phone on me all the time. And then to go one step further, you could be that person who keeps that cell phone in your pocket all the time. Like, some people keep it on them so often, you can see it in their clothes, the line of the phone, of where it sits in the pocket, right? They keep it on them all the time. But every time they take that phone out to use it, they have to wake it up. How do you wake it up? It's either with a finger touch or to your face, a face recognition. But if you're having a panic problem, chest pain, a fall, are you going to be able to do that motion? And if you think about it, chances are no, because face recognition might not work when your face is all contorted because you're crying and you're screaming and you don't look like you normally do during this emergency. So having just a simple button is still one of the best ways to get help. Yes?
Prices vary.
Yes, the prices vary, which is another reason why some people might want to get one just for their home as opposed to one outside of the home, because it's more money for outside of the home. The more you add to any device, the more it costs. Does insurance cover this? Yes, some insurances do. So I can speak to you on what I know is coverages of it, but it doesn't mean it's the only coverages of it. So if you have an insurance that I don't talk about and you want to know if they cover it, ask them, because more and more insurers, are covering these personal medical alert devices. And when you call them to ask them, try not to use the name of a company like Lifeline. Lifeline is what everybody calls them because they started it back in the 70s. It's like Kleenex. So try to just use medical alert. Do you cover a medical alert device? And they may contract with a company that covers it or not, but it's the start of the conversation. So yes, there are some companies that cover it. So do you have any other questions on the devices before I move into the coverages and costs? Yes.
Hi. You spoke a little bit about the cell phone. I'm wondering if you know anything about the smartwatches, and some of them have fall detection. Do you know anything about those capabilities?
I don't know a lot about their capabilities other than that they exist and they work a little bit differently than these devices do. I know that our devices are connected to a call center that only answers calls for these devices. So the people are trained, when you press your button, they know that you're pressing a medical alert device button and that it's nothing else. Or when the fall detection signal comes in, they know it's coming from a medical alert device. Some companies, and I can only assume, and this is an assumption on my part, when it's something built into a watch, might go to a general call center that answers calls for burglar alarms, security alarms like this, and all different ones. So they might be not as versed as the answerers for the medical alert devices. And then for the watches, I know many of them with fall detection, you have to pay an additional monitoring fee to get that to work. No? It comes with it? Okay, so that's a good point. So if you have something that dials, if you press the button, it dials 911. And it goes to 911. So some of the differences are, if you have a device that says it calls 911 for you, I would say we need to ask more questions, because when you dial 911, you're getting the police department. They're going to dispatch to you. Whether you need help or not, they're going to dispatch to you. So with our devices, we find that, and one of the reasons we use the call centers is about 85% of our calls are non-emergency. We really don't need the police to come. We just need our son, or we need our daughter, or, you know, we just need a lift assist. And I can't believe I didn't talk about this, but many of our calls come in because people fall. Has anybody here ever fallen? If you don't mind sharing that, yes, you did. Okay. Some of us have. I fell outside my mother's house. It happens. And when you fall, sometimes you go, how in the world did that how did I end up on the floor? A second ago, I was standing up. But you're not hurt. And as we get older, it's harder to get up. Our knees aren't as strong, our arms aren't as strong, so sometimes you're just stuck on the floor, not hurt. So many of our calls come in from people who just need a lift assist. So we can call and say, it's, you know, they don't need EMTs, they don't need to go to the hospital, they just need a lift assist. And that could happen with a son, a daughter, a neighbor, or the EMT. So we use it for lift assist all the time. So I don't know how I got off on that tangent. I didn't want to forget to say that you can use it just to get someone to come and help you get up. But if the calls go directly to 911, they have to dispatch someone to your house. Even if you say, you know, I think I'm okay, they're still going to send the police to check on you because it went to the 911 center. If you're using your cell phone and you dial 911 from, you know, if you're driving down the street and all of a sudden you start to feel a little dizzy, so you pull over and you dial 911, you have to tell them where you are, too. So that's you know, on most things. So that's another thing to keep in mind, too. Some devices have GPS built into them, and if it's activated, they can find you. Our mobile one, like you're wearing, does have that. So if you activate your device and you can't tell us where you are because you forgot, or whatever the emergency is making it hard for you to convey where you are, we can find you. We can pinpoint where you are. So that's pretty cool, too. Yes, forgot to say that, too. Yes, they are waterproof. So you can wear these and should wear these in the shower. When you're bathing, if you're doing the dishes and you bend and you put it in the dishwasher, it's okay. They're waterproof. We don't want you going scuba diving with them down, you know, past 25 feet or anything like that. So if you plan on going scuba diving, use the buddy system. But yes, you can get them wet, and you should use them in the shower. It's kind of weird when you have these on if you go into the shower with them, because, you know, it's not like a thin necklace like I have on. It's actually a button. So if you're one of those people that says, I don't, you know, it just feels weird wearing that in the shower, just try to think and take it off and put it where you can reach it from anywhere in that shower or outside of that shower, because that's where a lot of our falls happen, is in the bathroom. So keep that in mind, too. And then another question comes up. We mentioned it earlier. Do you sleep with it? It's a personal preference. We want people to sleep with it, but if you have it on your neck, chances are it's going to move around. Some people wear it on their wrists, and I do have samples of the ones on the wrist. If you want to look at them afterwards, you're welcome to. But if you don't sleep with it, I would recommend the same thing that I said about the shower. Keep it right on either your bedpost or your nightstand, and get into like a habit. When you swing your legs over to the side of the bed to get up, I think there's only a few of us with glasses on in here today. Well, I can't see without my glasses. So a habit is, when I sit up, I put my glasses on. My next habit would be my neck pendant. So it's just a habit of, if you're not going to sleep with it, to make sure you put it on before you get out of bed. Yes?
I sleep with my device. I didn't think I would, but my daughter really wants me, so I do. But I'm kind of a side sleeper, so I just put it up right here and it sits there all night. I've never hit it by mistake, sleeping or having it on me at night. Do it other times, but not that.
So this nice lady is sharing that she does sleep with hers, and when she sleeps on her side, she kind of tucks it up here and it stays there all night, so she doesn't move around too much. So it's an individual preference, and you can try it and see what happens. And if it goes off at 2 in the morning and you hear us saying, Carol, this is Darlene, do you need help? You know, oops, I might want to rethink that. But most of the buttons, and again, if you want to see them before, I can pass them around or you can come. They're indented. So if you put it flat on a table, it's not going to go off. It's kind of indented. You have to press it. If you hug someone tight enough, chances are you'll set it off, because we have buttons and, you know, things on our blouses and stuff, but you might set it off. But it is indented, so it's not super easy to set it off by mistake. But if you set it off by mistake, no biggie. We love those calls. When we call out and say, Debbie, do you need help? You say, I pushed it by mistake. We love those calls, because now we can just say, great, have a nice day. We'll reset your device.
Just a question. Now, if I was told if I wear this here, I have to have this one with me. That's true.
For the type you have, it is true. Yeah.
I didn't know there were other types.
Yeah. So this one, and I can talk a little bit more about this with you separately. It's because of the type you have. I'll answer that for you afterwards. There are different types out there, so she just has questions on the specific one she has. So different ones work in different ways and have, you know, features that others don't. So it all depends what you want. Do you need fall detection or not? Because if you have fall detection, you can only wear it on your neck at this point. You might not need that. Fall detection helps. If there's anybody who you think should have come to this and they're not here today, I hope you're taking mental notes so you can share with them, because a lot of the people who use the fall detection one and who benefit from the fall detection one are people with a little bit of confusion, a little bit of dementia, because they might forget they have it on when they take a fall, or get confused of what to do when they take a fall. And that's where the fall detection kicks in and gets them help when they didn't even realize that they have help coming. Okay? So before I forget, and I don't even know what time it is right now. Oh, 20 of, okay. So before I forget, some of the ways that it's paid for that I can share with you are the local state home care agencies like HESCO. If you're involved with any of those agencies, they cover the services if you qualify. Mass Health will cover the landline type device if you qualify for Mass Health. And there are some other insurances that cover it in Medicare Advantage space. So United Health, Medicare Advantage covers it now, and Humana. I don't know if anybody who has that. There are some PACE organizations that cover it. I don't know if there's a PACE that covers this area yet.
Which organization?
PACE, Summit is one. Neighborhood Health Plan is another one that covers it. There's a state insurance. If you worked for the state and you have, I think it used to be called GIC Indemnity. It might be Indemnity. They cover it. You can throw out some others if you want to ask me the question. I may or may not know the answer. Yes. I'm sorry? The veterans do have a device that they provide. Thank you for asking that. The Veterans Administration does contract with a medical alert device. I don't have it here, but they do have one that they provide. So if you're a veteran or a surviving spouse of a veteran, you could check with the VA, and they will have one. I don't know the qualifications, what they are, but I know they do provide one. Yep. And there are, and I just heard someone say oh, I'm sorry, sir, go ahead.
Aren't there two charges involved? Once a unit and then a monthly charge? Or how does it work?
So the question is, are there two charges involved? So I'm talking about ways of getting it paid for, but there's also private pay. If you don't have Mass Health or qualify for any additional assistance and you're going to private pay for it, what's the charge for that? It's basically one charge a month. It's the monitoring and rental together. So it's bundled. So an average cost, I'm just going to throw out an average out there for what these go for. An average cost for a landline device, if you're private paying, is around $25 a month. These are monthly charges. That means you pay it this month in November, and if you pay it next month in December and you don't want it anymore in January, you stop paying. So it's month to month, and that includes the device, the monitoring, whatever you need for it, the buttons, you know, all that. And then if you add on fall detection, it adds about another $10. If you need cellular because you don't have a landline, it adds about another $5. So, you know, it kind of goes up and down. So when talking about cost, and this is just from being in the business and doing my own research and meeting colleagues and competitors out in the field, is when you're thinking about these, when your family and your friends are thinking about these, and you're telling your neighbor who should have been here and didn't come about these, and they do their homework, ask questions like, do I have to sign a contract for any length of time? Because one of the worries I have, and I've heard of it happening, that's why I bring it up, is that you sign a contract because they say, $19.95, that's a wonderful rate. But you have to sign a contract, and the only way to get out of the contract is if you die or go into a nursing home. And that's terrible, because you may get this because you had a hip replacement, and you're going to be alone while the family goes to work. So while they're at work, they're worried about you, you know, as you're starting to get rehabbed at home, moving around by yourself. But now you feel better after 4 months, and you don't need it anymore. You want to be able to give it back, right? You should be able to quit it if you don't like it. So ask the questions, am I signing a contract for any length of time? You want to make sure you don't, these should be month to month. That's just my opinion. But they really should be month to month. So you don't want to kind of get stuck into something. Make sure you can quit it at any time, because sometimes some of you will get it and may have gotten it because you have a daughter or a son who's driving you crazy saying, Mom, you need to get this. Mom, you need to get this. Dad, you need to get this. I worry about you. They drive you nuts. I am one of those daughters. So you get it saying, oh, okay, I'll get it. And then if 2 months go by, you've never put it on since the first day, there's no sense in keeping it. You should be able to give it back. Now, 95% of the time, I can almost guarantee once you put them on, you start to feel a little better wearing them. I know my mom did. Once my dad passed away, I feel better knowing that I just can push the button and someone will come help me. And I can just push the button and know that they'll call you. So ask those questions when you're shopping around. What else can I tell you? So far, so good. So yes, I do have another question. Can you just pay for fall detection? The question is, can you pay for just fall detection? And no. Because fall detection comes in, it's an addition to the device. So you have your medical alert device, and then do you want fall detection with it? It's like an add-on, okay? So I want to share with you some of the, one more. Yeah, it can be. If someone has a landline telephone system in their house, we hook it up through their landline telephone. When you're talking about landline, nowadays, I'm old enough to remember the true landline. Right. Old copper wire. Are you talking about an old copper wire or an internet connection? Old copper wire. I'm not talking internet. So if someone has, there's two different ways to get it. If they have a landline, old landline phone, you know, you connect to the wall. We can connect it like that still. Most people are getting rid of that, so now we have our cellular devices. Going through the internet is not recommended because the internet goes down. So it's, you know, we want to go, we don't hook up through the internet, we hook up through cellular. We have cellular built into our devices. My next question is, what is the difference of not carrying So Yep, we talked a little bit about that too. If you have your, yeah, that's okay. If you have your cell phone on you, and I went through this earlier, and I said we all are going to say I always keep my cell phone, so I don't need that. And that's what I hear a lot. I don't need it because I always have my cell phone. I always have my cell phone with me too. But where is my cell phone right now? It's not on me. It's not on my person. So although you might always have it, it might not be close enough when that chest pain occurs for you to reach it. If it is, you can certainly use your cell phone to call 911, to call your daughter. Well, when you use your cell phone, you're going to get whoever you called. If you press our button, you're going to get our operators. The operators will do what you tell us, just like if you called someone and told them what to do. If you pressed daughter because you have her programmed in and you told her I need EMTs, she's going to call them for you. If you press our button and you say I broke my hip, we're going to send the EMTs. So it can do the same thing, okay? Yep. So some of the reasons that people use these I want to share with you because I know I've said a few times it's not just for emergency, but I have met people who've used these for different reasons. And I want you to think about these because most of the time when people get a medical alert device, it's because something has happened. Something has already happened, like they were walking from the kitchen to the deck and they tripped and fell. Hurt themselves, had to go to the hospital because it took them a few hours for someone to find them. Then they had to go to rehab, and when they're coming home, everybody's saying you can't go home unless you get a medical alert device. That's why people get them, because they're kind of forced into it. So I'm out here talking to you because I want us to be proactive in getting these devices and not waiting for something to happen, because we can use these for anything. It's not just that trip through the threshold when you're walking through the door. It's, you could be sitting in your kitchen having a cup of tea and you look out the door and suddenly you see smoke at the garage. You can press your button, stay keeping an eye on what's going on and say there's smoke coming out of my garage and we'll send the fire department. If you're in a tenement house or in a house that is close to others and there's someone walking around the halls or walking around the neighborhood who doesn't belong and something just feels creepy and out of place, you can just keep an eye on that person walking around, push your button and say, can you send the police to my neighborhood? There's this person walking on Madison Street and this is what that person looks like and I'm afraid. And the police will come and do a check on what's going on. We have caught burglars because when you press your button, there was one lady, some people need help getting in and out of bed. So once they're in bed, the person who helped them leaves. In the morning, the person comes back and helps them out of bed. We have one woman who could hear someone coming in her house through the door, but she couldn't get up, she couldn't go anywhere, so she had her button and pressed it. When she pressed her button, the devices say out loud that it's calling for help. So it said they were calling for help, so the people didn't fully enter the house, but she told us when we came over that she felt someone was coming through the door, and they went so quickly they did catch the guys that were trying to break into her house. So you can use it for burglary, fire, EMTs, get my daughter over here, or press it every day just to talk to us. We recommend testing these monthly. So if you have them, you might get reminded every month to test them, and that's just a way of getting used to talking to someone who's not in the house, not right there with you. And it's a good thing to press it monthly. We say, do you need help? You say, no, I'm doing my monthly test, and we love those calls too. But some people press it every day just for someone to talk to because they don't get to come out and meet all of you. Some people can't get out like you do, so they press it every day just to talk to us. They press it at night when they're going to bed to let us know, and that's okay because there's no charge for that call to go through, and we like those non-emergencies. Has this been helpful to you? Yes. I do have these up here if you want to come and look at them, touch them, ask questions about them. If you're thinking about it, You know what? You know what? If you think about these, think of it like insurance. Because I just said earlier, a lot of times I hear the stories of people who say, I don't need it yet. Or they tell me the story of why they got it, which was the fall, the hospital, the rehab, and then back home. But if you think of it like car insurance, you get car insurance before you put the car on the road. You don't wait until that accident happens and then get the insurance, right? This is the same type of thing. You get it ahead of time. When something happens, you have it all ready. And if you have to use it that one time, you say, whew, I'm glad I had that. Honestly, when I used to install them, I used to tell people, I hope you never have to press it, because I really, truly don't want them to have to use it. But if they do, my mom has one, and she has not had to use it for an emergency, and we're very thankful for that. But she proudly displays it every time she goes anywhere. So I highly recommend it. And then I guess where I was going with that is, if you know someone who you think they're kind of thinking, maybe I should, you know, I'm not old yet, I'm only 87, but maybe I should. You know what I say? Give it a try, because there's no contract. So if you think, I'm not sure I'm going to like wearing it, I would say, give it a try for a couple of weeks. See how you feel when you put it on every day. If you're comfortable with it and you feel better with it, you keep it. If every time you put it on, it gives you angst, and you know you really have this frown on your face the whole time you're wearing it, call us up and tell us to pick it up, and we will. You've lost nothing except trying it for a couple of weeks. So I'm a big proponent of, for this type of thing, give it a shot. You know, if you don't like it, we'll pick it up. If you do like it, hallelujah, we hope you never have to use it. So that's my spiel, I guess. I don't really know how to end off a program. Do you have any other questions for me? I do have brochures up here. You can utilize these. You can call. I even have my card, so if you want to talk to me privately, or if you have questions that you didn't want to ask, you know, with another 30 people listening to you, you can always call me tomorrow. I'll be in the office. Or this afternoon. I have about an hour drive, so I'd be happy to talk on my drive. Hands-free, of course. Thank you all. Thank you for being here.